Everyone, thank God for another beautiful day. It is a privilege to come your way again. Today, we really appreciate God for how He has been helping us and even for the support that we are getting from the public. We really want to say thank you to as many that have reached out to us, for those that have made inquiry on how they can go about embracing the scheme, and for those that have told us that the information that we have provided so far, that it has really helped them. We really want to say thank you to you all. And today we have come again to deepen awareness on retirement. I remain your host, Mr. Chus Udo Okonta, the promoter of this program known as Retirement Matters. Today we want to discuss something that is really key to retirement, and for one to actually plan and have a comfortable time in retirement. I think the topic we want to discuss today has a long way, to go, has a role to play, in order for one to plan effectively. Today we'll be looking at a topic that says role of federal government in ensuring good retirement. Role of federal government in ensuring good retirement. Before we go into the topic, let's just highlight the news items that we have. The first news item that we have today has to do with what the federal government did yesterday. Stakeholders have, reacted to the money that was released by the federal government yesterday. Yesterday we announced that the federal government released around 16.67 billion naira for the settlement of the pension accrual rights of 2021 retirees. Stakeholders have responded, and according to them, they saw it as a beautiful new year a gift, to these retirees. Reacting to this, Mr. Ivor Tako, the executive director of pension rights advocacy, actually applauded the federal government for this gesture, while he employed the federal government to sustain this standard that have been set so far. Then the second news item we have is just an expression by contributors, on the impact of inflation and even the devaluation of the naira, the impact that it is having on their contributions. And then they are calling on the federal government to do all things possible to make sure that at least the issue of inflation is handled, and they let the naira be stable, so that as they look up to better retirement, when the time that they will retire, what they will have as their retirement package will be useful, to them. And these are the news items that we have today. Then going into our topic, which says role of federal government in ensuring good retirement. For one to actually have good retirement, the federal government has a major role to play, because even the contributory pension scheme that is more or less taking care of the retirement plan of people, it was the federal government that brought the law, to being, and they have been driving it since 2004, that the act was enacted to repeal the former pension system, which was which is the defined benefit scheme, which is still running But the contributory pension scheme came in order to handle the problems that clogged the um, defined benefit scheme. Today, we want to actually highlight the roles that the federal government has to play to ensure that this contributory pension scheme, live to the expectations, of the people. The first role that we feel that the federal government has to play is it has to do with compliance. The law was set up by the federal government and is expected that the federal government should, comply with every piece of, information that is stated in the Pension Reform Act of 2014, which we are using now. The issue of compliance is very key. Thank God that the federal government is actually living up to expectations, because when the 2014 Act was, enacted, signed into law, there were many things that were in that act that need to be enforced. But thank God that the federal government is pushing them now, though there are still some things that are still there that have not been enforced. Because it took the federal government years. Imagine since from 2014 that law came into being. It was this year that the federal government complied with the issue of 18%. Before now, they've been contributing and remitting 15%. But thank God that this administration has come to, comply with the law, and it is an expectation that some other things that are still there that have not been complied with, that the federal government should comply, like the issue of the pension protection fund is part of the act. That has not been implemented. The federal government need to comply with that. Then the issue of minimum pension guarantee, which entails that at least the people, when people retire now, like as we always say, those that retire, that their funds are below the threshold, that their funds are below 550,000, that they just pay them off. The minimum pension guarantee will take care of that, so that everybody that have contributed, when you retire, you will have pension. Unlike now, that when people retire, they just give them en block and they just tell them to go. There is no pension benefit for them. These two things are still pending, and maybe some other things that are still in the act that are not being implemented. I think for people to have a comfortable retirement, for everybody to retire well, the federal government must comply with everything that is stated in the Pension Reform Act. Then after that, the next role that we feel that the federal government has to, comply with, is the issue, or that they have to play, is the issue of policy, enacting good policies, because some the policies of the federal government recently is affecting the pension system. Like as I said in the news, contributors are already worried about the policies of government, most especially the policies that has to do with naira devaluation, and the policy that came that has to do with investment. Since that policy on investment came, the investment in bonds, in treasury bills has dropped, and this has impacted negatively on contributions. There was a time, even this year, that the pension reform, that the pension fund assets has to dip for almost 2 months, because of that policy. But later it picked up again. For the federal government to ensure that people have good time in retirement, there is need for policies that will support the contributory pension scheme. Policies that will work against it, like the way inflation is working against it now, devaluation is working against it, and even that policy on investment is working against it. Such things should be looked into, because it is not actually too good that why you, I know they are trying to solve one problem, but as you are solving one problem, you are creating problem for another side. Most of the issue of inflation should be looked into very well, because that is a fear for many people. Because even there was on another program that somebody even called, he was actually lamenting that saving money in Nigeria is not even a good thing to do. He gave an instance of where the way it operates in a country like Canada, where he lives, where the inflation rate is very low. We believe that the federal government, they are working assiduously to address this issue of inflation. I think more effort should be put in place to address the issue of inflation and other policies that are affecting the pension system. Then another role that we feel that the federal government has to play is the role of enforcement. Everything that is stated in the Pension Reform Act, the federal government must support the industry regulator, which is the National Pension Commission, to enforce those rules. People have to, all those people that are not complying, they just have to, comply. There are still many companies that are outside the contributory pension scheme. The federal government should make sure, drum it to the ears of every employer. Once you have 3 employees, that they must comply with this act, because if the economy will have aged people that are just begging, looking for how to survive at old age, it will be a great problem for the society. And for us to have a peaceful society, the federal government must support the regulators and operators to see that those things that are put in the law are enforced. Is a major role that we feel that the federal government has to play. Another role that the federal government has to play is the role of living by an example. The federal government has to set the example. Presently, we have agitation. We have people that are agitating that they want to pull out from the contributory pension scheme, most especially those like within the paramilitary, like especially the police. They've been agitating that they want to pull out since their colleagues have pulled out. I think the federal government has to make sure that this system, the scheme, is protected, and the federal government must show leadership. Like in the area of contribution, why most of the thing that has led to the agitation is that some of them are complaining that what their colleagues that that under the defined benefits are getting, that theirs is as if they are being shortchanged. And like some experts have said, that the federal government can even do more than the minimum 18% for people of this nature. The federal government can lead by an example by even exceeding the minimum 18% contribution. They can do 20%. It's an example, and when they set such example, other people will comply. The federal government must lead by an example to make sure that they contribute beyond the minimum 18% and contribute regularly. For those that are agitating, if maybe their contribution, they are getting like 20% or 25%, and they know that when they retire they have enough fund in their kitty, I don't think they will be agitating. Such agitation can be handled through good contribution and remittance. The federal government should set the example. Then the last role that we feel that the federal government has to play is very key. The role of providing favorable business environment is very key. While you enforce, you tell people to comply, the people you are enforcing, their business must be doing well for them to comply, and it behooves on the federal government to provide a favorable business environment for the private sector to thrive, so that they can bring in their people there. And all other things in the area of security, all those things must be taken care of. The environment should be favorable for businesses to thrive, and once this is done, the people will not be coerced to contribute. I think these are just the few roles. I know that there are more than this, but just because of our time, these are the few roles we have identified that the federal government should play to ensure that we have good retirement scheme and for people to retire and retire well. Thank you once again for giving us attention today. Our lines are still open: 08054269557 and 07033253527, and you can reach us through ispenonline@gmail.com. If you want to send us mail, if you want to reach us through WhatsApp, all those are mobile lines. They are our WhatsApp number. You can reach us. I'm still using this opportunity to call on advertisers. If you want to advertise on this program, because we have people that are following us, you can actually place your advert here, and the people will get to know what you are doing. Thank you for giving us your attention today. By the grace of God, we'll still come your way tomorrow by the grace of God. Thank you and remain blessed.